we are
live on Facebook.
We are live on Facebook. This is awesome. This is like a reunion. I'm gonna, and I'm just gonna give people. Hold on, I'm admitting somebody else. I'm gonna give people, a little bit more time to come in to the Zoom room and to Facebook. But this is just a thrill. I have to be honest. I was a little nervous, about this, because you know what? I'll tell you what. Mostly, what I was nervous about is that I'm not a real tech savvy person, so I was afraid of like technical glitches and all of that. But I think we're going to be okay. I hope we're going to be okay. If there's any glitchy stuff happening on Facebook, if folks can kind of let me know. And I'll try to attend to it. So, but yeah, we're gonna wait for. So Taylor, are you there, sweetie? You're there, right?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to read a part out of "She Was Always a Gentleman," and the reason is because I thought that the first show, it would be really cool to talk about first kisses. Yeah, first kisses on the first show. Your first kiss was what? Were you in second grade, girl?
Shut up. I was young.
Yes. Yes, it's a very different day.
We're talking about girl kisses or boy kisses?
We're talking about first. We're talking about first kisses.
Okay.
We're talking about first kisses, and it doesn't really matter. I'm checking over on Facebook. I just kind of want to make sure that things are happening as they should. Hold on. Yeah, it's happening. All right. So yeah, first kisses. That's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to read an excerpt out of the book, and we're going to get into it. But I'm going to give folks a few more minutes to. I mean, who doesn't like remembering their first kiss?
Kisses are special. As long as I think that I'm a little torn because I'll be honest.
You better be.
I had a traumatic childhood, and not all of those things were appropriate in my childhood. And so in my mind, I'd like to pick out the ones that not necessarily were appropriate, but that felt good to me.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
And that's and I'm really glad you pointed that out, because I was thinking about, obviously, first little boyfriend or girlfriend. But then, some of us have had more traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
I get into that in another story, and we'll talk about that. Like when I share trusted and treacherous adults, from my book. So that, yeah.
That's a really great passage. I enjoyed reading that passage.
It was hard to write. That was hard
to write.
I bet it was. So let me see. So we've got the Zoom room going, and we've got Facebook Live. So, I'm going to jump into it. I can't really tell like who's with us and who's not. So
because people are going to be on Facebook that aren't in the Zoom, so you can't really see all the participants.
Right. And so here's the thing. If you are, hold on. I want to
definitely announce it so that they know that they can jump on over to the Zoom room. Do you want me to read it to you? I have a second phone. I can do that.
Actually, then why don't you make the announcement, sweetie?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If you are watching Patti and I and Noki on Facebook, but you would like to join in the Zoom room, the meeting number is 854-6601-8463. Just come on over here and
just repeat
hop
that
into
one more.
This convo.
Repeat that one more time.
Absolutely. The meeting number is 854-6601-8463.
There you go. So hopefully people will, and the reason why it's kind of cool to join the Zoom room is because you can talk like we're talking right now, which is lovely. So for people who are on Facebook or in the Zoom room, I'm gonna start, and Anoki, I think I'm gonna, what's the noise in the background? Is that you, Taylor, or Anoki?
It might be. Phoenix is, 80 years old when it comes to volume on the telly.
Listening to things on the yeah. Today, I just want to welcome everyone to Wildflowers Live. This is our first Wildflowers live stream. I will be doing this 14 times, and that's because of the number of stories in the book. I thought, 14 times, and of course, if people wanted to continue on past that, that's fine. But that was kind of my thinking about this. So today's theme is first kisses. I will be sharing a couple of passages from the story, She Was Always a Gentleman. And it's an unusual title, you might think, for especially having to do with the first kiss. But if you've already read the book, then you understand why the title is that, and we'll get into that. But just a little bit about Wildflowers and Present Tenses. First of all, if you haven't bought the book, and you want to buy it, the best way to buy my book is to go to my website, PattiLuciaWrites.com. You will get a discount on my website, 15%, and you can get an additional discount if you sign up for my newsletter. You'll get an additional 10%. So basically, if you go on my website, you can get 25% off just by going to my website and signing up for my newsletter. Now, I'm not obnoxious with my newsletter. I'm not going to be sending you stuff all the time because honestly, I just don't have the time to do that. But it'll be monthly, maybe a poem, maybe a video of some of the things that I'm doing, passages, poetry, or whatever. I'll try to make it interesting and enjoyable for you. But that would be a once a month kind of thing. So if you're buying my book, you haven't gotten it yet, the best deal, this is better than Amazon, better than Barnes and Noble, better than any of those, is to go to my website, PattiLuciaWrites.com, sign up for my newsletter, additional 10%, and to add on to the 15% you get off. And so it's a 25% discount. So just a little bit of an introduction to Wildflowers and Present Tenses. I just wanted to share with people that this book started with a commitment to myself at the beginning of 2020. And some of you know me really well. I was doing a lot of work on kind of revitalizing myself and recreating my life after my cafe closed. And I had gotten to a point where I needed to make a firm commitment to myself to complete that collection of short stories that had been literally following me around in a cardboard box for 20 years. I mean, honestly, people. So I made that commitment, and I also made a commitment to have the discipline to complete that. And it does take an awful lot of discipline. So I'm putting together these short stories and everything, and I consulted with a business consultant who's also kind of a psychic. And I was telling her, okay, this is my concept. This is my commitment. This is what I'm doing. Her name is Kathy Ma. She's amazing. And I was sharing her story, and she said, Patti, I really, really like this, but you have a problem. I said, what's the problem? She said, collection of short stories, they don't really work. Like, it's hard to market a collection of short stories, even if you're an established author. I was like, fuck. So, I said, okay. She said, go figure it out. You have to have like a unifying theme. You have to have something that brings it all together that you can really market it. All right. So go see if you can figure that out. I was like, damn it. So I gave it some thought, and I came up with an idea that was really kind of crazy. So crazy that I had to call her back and say, Kathy, I have come up with a possible solution. I don't know if it's a solution or if it's going to be more of a problem. And I told her. And so this was my idea. I was going to create a crone character who was a future self, who was going to tell these stories by a fire to fairies. All right, so crone sitting by a fire telling the stories to fairies. So really kind of wackadoo. And Kathy, bless her heart, she said, you know, it's a wacky idea, Patti, but it is so you, and I think it'll work. I was like, yes, awesome. So that's how the whole concept of having a crone character, who's my future self, wilder, wiser, more courageous, sitting by a fire at some point in the future, telling these stories to fairies. And ultimately, she puts the stories into the fire as a way of releasing her past and moving more fully into her present. So that's kind of the premise of kind of how I bring all of these stories together. That's why it's called Wildflowers in Present Tenses. Wildflowers is a reference to particularly women who grow best in fields and in forests, not in pots and in backyards and in gardens. Okay, so you know who you are. It's probably most of the women on this call who you would consider yourself wildflowers. So, so it's a homage to, you know, all of us who are like that, and of course, you know, a statement about being fully in the present tense. So today, by the way, I've already announced, I've already announced the best way to get my book. Again, discounts on my website, so you'll pay less. All right, so today it's all about first kisses. And we've already talked a little bit about first kisses, and we can share some more about first kisses. There is a story in my book about my first kiss, and I would like to be able to tell you that my first kiss was like really this wonderful, amazing experience. I'd like to tell you guys that a lot of my experiences in childhood were wonderful and amazing. You know, not so much, you know, we all have our share of trauma. So here's the deal. It's a story that is titled, She Was Always a Gentleman. So obviously my first kiss is with another young woman my age. And it was traumatic for me because I grew up in a very religious family. Homosexuality was an abomination. I had two religions in my family. I had Catholicism and baptism, and it was an abomination to both. So I was doubly screwed. But at any rate, and I'm realizing as I move through my teens that I am attracted to women, and I am fighting it every inch of the way. The story begins after the kiss has happened, and I'm already traumatized, and I'm looking for someone to talk to. I cannot talk to my parents. I think that maybe I'm going to hell. I think that maybe I'm crazy. I'm not really sure, but I'm really kind of freaked out. So
how old were you, Patti?
I was 17. A late bloomer, according to you, right, Taylor? We'll get into that later. So She Was Always a Gentleman. By the way, this book is beautifully illustrated by Bridget Van Otteren, and I'll show you some of the illustrations. So the story does begin, the crone introduces the story. And she says, "A first kiss should never be terrifying," says the crone. "I used to want to change the world in big, dramatic ways. Now, if I could change anything, I would make it a safe place for blossoming bodies and the yearnings of heart and spirit. A safe place for kisses." The fairies lean in. "Kisses," they whisper. "Yes, more kisses." So this is the story. She was always a gentleman. Tell me more about that kiss. The question was wrong. I felt it. I wanted to tell him about my fears, ask if that kiss was a mortal sin. I wanted to know what DSM-3 said about homosexuality. Mr. Lane could have said, "Tell me more about your concerns," or Tell me more about your relationship with your parents. But he was not interested in my mind or my soul. He had no interest in my current identity crisis. Mr. Lane wanted to know where we were, what we were wearing, what other parts of our bodies may have been touching, and if Mary Beth had put her tongue in my mouth. I could go to hell for all he cared, so long as he could watch. I floated like an oyster cracker in a soup of betrayal. God damn you, Mr. Lane. So this story kind of opens up with me in crisis about a kiss, and then just kind of goes back to I kind of go back to kind of, well, the truth of the matter. The truth was, I wanted to kiss Mary Beth. She had delicate lips and a wide smile with overlapping front teeth. I liked her brown, squinty eyes, her freckles, and wild, curly black hair. She wore an engineer's hat, smoked Marlboro cigarettes, and drove a red VW Bug. She was the most kissable thing in my world. And the truth was, my crisis didn't just fall from the sky one day and drive up in a red Volkswagen Bug. It had been stalking me for years. In the love letters I wrote to Melody in 4th grade, in the recurring flashes of Leisha's breasts in 7th grade, in my obsession with Colleen's lips in 8th grade, and my crush on Susan in 9th grade. If thoughts were sins, I had been sinning like this since I was 9. So, the story kind of goes through these, my friendship with this woman, Mary Beth, and then leads up to the moment when we had gone away for a weekend and there was the kiss. And I think, Taylor, were you disappointed in my response to her kiss, by the way, when you read this?
I was a little taken aback.
You were taken aback. Yeah. You were taken
aback. But I was also impressed that you were able to make that and have that discernment for yourself. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know that it's something that a lot of young women would do in that situation, regardless of who was kissing them. So
Mm-hmm. I grew up in a church environment too, and I'll say I expected it, and then I was kind of like, yep, that's so in character for you, mm-hmm. I don't know, you're definitely you have some calculation to you, mm-hmm. In the way you work, and even though everything leading up to that was kind of like going there, like it was still like a surprise, and
yeah,
you should have asked first.
Yeah.
I think if she had asked first, it would have been different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe, and it's hard for me. It's hard for me to know because I was attracted to her, but more terrified of the implications.
I was the icebreaker in the church community though. So I was more of the Mary Beth.
So and I'm gonna, I'm skipping around a little bit, but anyway, we end up at this this motel, and it's a room with like one like king size bed. And so it occurs to me as I'm standing there, I'm looking at the kind of the reality of the situation. What's interesting about this whole situation, what's juxtaposed in all of it, is that we had gone to Rhode Island the same weekend a nor'easter was coming in. So there's this huge storm coming in. It's just very interesting. And so there's a lot of stuff that I do with kind of like the nor'easter coming in, and also the nor'easter that was happening in my mind and in my sensibilities. There were all kinds of nor'easters happening in this story. So at any rate, to avoid the bed, I had suggested that we go to the beach. And so we're out there in the wind and the rain, and it was amazing, but it was really mostly a diversion. So it continues. Later, after warm showers and clam chowder, we approached the bed. Mary Beth playfully rolled from one side to the other, counting how many body rolls it took to traverse the width of the thing. She wore men's boxers and a t-shirt and complained she was cold. I wore my favorite flannel pajamas and I was not, but climbed under the covers as if I were. We talked quietly. We talked quietly in the dark about storms, fishermen, and the way the rain stung our faces, and what we might find on the beach the next morning. Our voices grew quieter, our words slower. Mary Beth was telling a story about the time she had to take a hook out of a fish when she paused. I turned my head slightly toward her, thinking she may have fallen asleep in the middle of her story. She hadn't. I felt her lips on mine, soft and wet. I could feel the shape of them, the warmth of them, but my lips did not kiss her back. Are you okay? She asked. Is this okay? It was a simple yes or no question, and yet I panicked. I wanted to tell her what I thought about her lips and her hair and her freckles and the way she shifted her car and smoked her cigarettes and saved me from cashier disasters, and how much I loved her secret place on the mountain and making plans to escape. No, I whispered. I heard Mary Beth sigh and adjust her position. It's okay. She never tried to kiss me again. That might in some ways seem anticlimactic, but that's kind of how the kiss played out, because of pretty much where I was at that moment in my life, and dealing with my own sexuality. And then surprisingly, and then of course I went to Mr. Lane, and and he was absolutely no help at all. And how the story kind of wraps up, I discover many, many years later that Mary Beth has gone through a transition, and it really gives me pause. So 2 decades later, long after I left Springfield, I heard about Mary Beth's transition. I did not know what people called him now. I knew nothing of how he was or if he was still alive. Even now, I wonder how such a transition happened in the late 80s, what it was like for him, how primitive the operation must have been compared to the surgical advances of past decades. Was he ostracized? Was he lonely? I prayed he had found someone to love and someone who loved him. What I do know is this. Even then, Mary Beth was a gentleman. No meant no, even if my particular no meant I'm not really sure right now. I'm kind of freaked out, but I really like you and I like the way your lips feel, but I'm afraid I might go to hell for this, and my no might change to yes tomorrow, but right now it's no, and I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I really am so sorry. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's more to the story, obviously, but that is the story of my first kiss. So are there any questions or comments at this point?
I think in like you were saying with Mary Beth's like transition and stuff, like just as scared as you were of everything else, after you live a while with like persecution or whatever, sometimes you feel like you need to change your entire being to fit into that mold, that you should have just been comfortable in to begin with. If every person wasn't afraid of, being dragged out in the street, like it would be a lot less awkward for everyone. So I think, when people were transitioning back then, it was, undoubtedly they were facing a lot of persecution, and were willing to conform in whatever way just to be able to be, like
yeah, it was a very, very different time.
I feel as though they were ostracized a lot more back then.
Yeah, like
just for gender preference. I mean, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, yeah, like, and when I was a kid, growing up in a really Christian community, I felt like, I needed to be a boy to be able to be me, and the actuality is I like being a woman. I love being a woman,
Yeah.
I have my masculine traits and moments, and I have, things, but I am a woman. And, I love the fact that, I I I pretty much like because I was conflicted about all that until like I had my son, like, and then when I had my son, I was like, I did the most womanly thing that any woman could by doing that. Like, Taylor's a warrior. I'm the one.
But I was the same way as a child.
Yeah.
As a child, I was a tomboy. Like, I'm not wearing your frilly shit. I don't want those socks with lace on. I want to like climb trees and kiss girls just like the kids down the street.
Like, I always wanted to be both, I never really wanted to be one or the other, I just wanted to be me, but there were definitely moments when I felt like I needed to be a boy to be loved or accepted, and I wasn't a boy, and so it wasn't gonna happen. But I'm glad now, that things are changing and that wasn't the case, that there was these, things like that, by the time that I was in high school or, shortly after I got married, I mean, all of that was kind of gone, and I could just be,
Yeah.
But
I feel like being boyish kept me safer too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes it made people want to test it. Like, oh yeah, you think you're tough, and that sucks. but like everything happens, in your path and in your line the way that it's supposed to be, to put you where you need to be in the end, so ultimately, like, yes, our day-to-day lives, like, affect how soon or how late or whenever we come into ourselves, but it's a process that goes on through the decades, and we're allowed to be multiple versions of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had a lot of respect for Mary Beth upon reading it. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have
Mary Beth knew they knew what they liked, who they were, and had to change, but it was unapologetic about it, I mean, eventually changed to be more comfortable in their own skin. And it also made me wonder, like you said, where are they today? And I hope they're loved, because I appreciate what they did for you on that night.
Yes, absolutely. So I have found little pieces of information. I haven't really been able to speak to him. I believe that his name is Mark now. And I believe that he still lives in the Springfield area and works with transgender youth and adults. And kind of helping them move through their medical procedures from what I could gather. Though one of the things that's really interesting is if you are somebody who only knew someone before they transitioned, and there's something very sensitive about contacting someone, because basically you are the aspect of them that you knew and that you had a relationship with, a friendship with, is actually an aspect of them that many don't really, that aspect is gone. You know what I mean? It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And so it makes, I found like I respected that, even though I had sent a letter to him and said, hey, I'm writing this story, I'd love to talk to you. I didn't hear back, and I think that was the issue. The issue is that I'm relating to an aspect of him that for him may not exist and anymore, and I have to respect that. I have to respect that that is his perspective at this time. I still have an enormous amount of respect for the person, that person that I had that friendship with, in the form that he was then. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the person that was at that time. That's First Kisses, and She Was Always a Gentleman. And again, if you haven't gotten my book yet and you want to buy it, the best way to buy it is to go onto pattiluciawrites.com. Sign up for my newsletter. That gives you a 10% discount in addition to the 15% discount that you can get just by going to my website. So it is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Goodreads. You can get the ebook on Kindle, Kobo. So it's out there and available in both forms. But if you want the hardcover version, the best way, and if you want it personalized, you can get it personalized as well. And if you want that, it's best to go to my website. Taylor is going to kind of co-host with me next week, and I was leaving it up to her as to which story and what theme we were going to talk about. Do you know yet, Taylor? I can always tell people during the week. You don't have to know now.
I really would, there are a couple stories that really, really hit me emotionally. But her is definitely one of the stories that really gets the passion going in my heart.
Okay. Well, then we like that. So
I think we'll talk about that if that's okay with you.
Yeah. It's not going to make you cry again, is it?
I might cry. I'm not making promises. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pregnant and emotional.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. It's so interesting because Taylor is so pregnant and so hormonal that as she was reading the manuscript, she literally was saying, and this one made me cry, and that one made me cry, and then I ugly cried. I ugly cried for this one.
I know which one. I'll try to pick two. Like, I cried for all of them. They all made me cry.
Right.
Did you cry, Inoki?
And I think I remember her. Yeah. And I think I remember her.
I make women cry.
Like, in of Patti life since I've known Patti, So like, I don't know. Like I was there and didn't even know that was all happening like that, So, I mean. That that was special.
Which one?
So, but
which one, Inoki? Did you just
her?
Which one? Oh, her. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have. We'll talk about that. That's and that and her is actually the book is also dedicated to her and the other wild women in my life. So good. That'll be fun. So before we go, I just want you guys to know that if you want to follow me on Instagram, Patti Lucia Writes on Instagram. I do these little videos and these things about writing and all kinds of stuff. I do that on Patti Lucia Writes. And I also have a YouTube station for Patti Lucia Writes too. So you can, get on all of those, and if you get on my YouTube, subscribe and all that good stuff. I also my books for 2021, I'm being very ambitious for 2021. I've got 3 in the works. 3. All right, so I have a collection of my poetry that's going to be out in May. I have a book that I've decided to write based on this blog that I have called This Amazing Body. And basically what it does is it chronicles my journey to optimal health as I age, and the surprising twist in that my journey forward as I age to optimal health is a journey that has brought me back, way back, to my ancient past and our ancient past, into more of an ancient way of eating. So I have moved from the general paradigm that, you know, the prominent paradigm now of plant-based eating to meat-based eating. And that is, so that's controversial in itself, but it chronicles my own personal journey and how this is a journey towards optimal health. So This Amazing Body on Instagram, you can follow me. I also have a YouTube channel, and that will be another book for 2021. In addition, the second book of the Wildflower series, which is Wildflowers and Wooden Spoons, I've been promising people for years that I will do a cookbook with all of the recipes.
This is the one.
This
People
is
have
the
been
one.
waiting for this book.
It's so. All right.
If you were a regular at
Kale
Mother
soup in
Earth
it.
Cafe.
Oh God. All right already. And this is kind of how it is. It's like, all right already. I'm writing it. So this is the cookbook with cafe stories. All right. So it's going to have all those recipes so you guys can stop bothering me about it. You know, it's going to have all the recipes, all the signature dishes, all the burgers, all the sauces, all of it, everything. And so that's going to be in the cookbook. Wildflowers and Wooden Spoons, that's due in November. This Amazing Body is due in October. If you have already read my book and you liked it, if you would kindly, if this is your thing, and I hope it is, if it is your thing to write reviews on things, please visit Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And if you would kindly say a few kind words about my book and give it a few stars, it helps the book get out. It really does. It helps the book get to a wider audience, and it is much, much appreciated. Also, I'm doing speaking engagements. If you belong to a book club, if you're doing a private event, if you are involved in something where they are looking for a guest speaker and you think that you know, it would be appropriate to have me speak about my book or speak about my health journey or whatever. I can talk about a lot of things. And you think that you would like me as a guest speaker, then you can contact me obviously through Facebook, through Instagram. You can also call. I'll give you the number, and that is 561-962-0140. That's my Wildflowers. That's my author number. That's 561-962-0140. So that's how you can contact me. Let's see, is there anything else? Any final comments? You guys have been awesome. Anoki, Taylor, you guys have been most vocal, and you know how much I love you. So, and I
We
see
love you.
Stephanie.
I love
Hello.
you.
Hello, Stephanie. It's so nice to
Hello.
it's so nice to see your face, Stephanie.
It's so nice to see you.
Who else have I got here? I just want to make sure. Hi, Diane. How are you? I can't really see
Hi,
the
Diane.
Yeah. Steph, did you want to say a few words before you go, sweetie?
I've just enjoyed reading, and it's funny because I remember some of those stories as they were happening, and it's
I know you do.
it's you know, and it's wonderful to see, and just, you know, in reading that story about first kisses, it didn't surprise me the reaction that you had, only because we've talked about that in the past and had many relations when it comes to that, and it's very dear. And you know, as somebody said before, you know, the paths that we go through and the experiences that we have and how that helps to forge who it is that we are, you know, is a wonderful thing, even though it's so painful as we go through it. To understand that, you know, as we go through it, that it's actually going to make a difference and forge who it is that we are later, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hindsight is always 20/20. Yeah.
Hindsight is always 20/20. And I honestly think that that is a big part of why I wrote this book, because it was a healing journey for me. And my desire was that it be also a healing journey for others, and for people to see that, you know, these are, one of the things, you know, because, you know, this is all about, so much of it is my relationships with women. I was a little concerned about my straight friends, right? Reading this and going, oh God, you know, and one of them is a friend from work who who's another teacher friend, and she was reading it, and she kind of texted me in the middle of the book and said, "Oh my God, I'm loving it." I said, "Oh, that's really good to hear," because I was a little nervous about sharing this with my straight friends, or straight family and straight friends. And she was like, "No, it's actually completely relatable, completely relatable for for us straight people." I was like, "That's awesome." That's such a relief. So anyway, but thank you, Stephanie. It's so wonderful to see your face and to hear your voice. So
I love the tree in her background.
yeah.
I love your tree on your wall.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm a tree person.
Yes, of course you are.
Patty and I sat many, many mornings underneath the mango tree.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of mango tree stories in Wildflowers and Wooden Spoons. I'm looking forward to writing them.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Love just thinking about being under that mango tree is healing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. I don't want to overstay my welcome. You guys have been awesome. I love you all so very much. Next week we'll do it again. Taylor and I are going to talk about the story Her. If you want to read it before we get together, your best bet is to get an ebook, and you can do that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Kindle, any of those places. It has been a blast for me. Thank you guys so much. And I look forward to doing this all again next Sunday, 10 o'clock.
Thank you for having us, Patti.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. It's been a joy. It's been a real joy.